Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bullspend, and marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had: impressions.
Cut the bull spend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Good day, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever you are doing, wherever you are. Welcome into this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. The official podcast of minor league baseball is back for another week. Tyler Mon, Sam Dykstra, Benjamin Hill, three of us in three different locations. Dudes, what's going on? Ben, you're on the road. We're going to talk about the road trip, but you're in a cool setting today for being on the road. Is this a hotel backdrop? It's a good spot.
Yeah, I'm in a hotel in Asheville. I actually, if you could see what I see in front of me, I'm on the eighth floor of this hotel in Asheville and got a view of the rolling hills behind some city buildings. So it's very, very idyllic.
A great place.
I woke up this morning and just looked out the window and I was like, wow, this is very pretty. Then I went into the bathroom and like the mirror has like Bluetooth or something, and this
What?
I don't know what happened. I just like turned on the bathroom light and I'm groggy and just woke up, and like this British woman, like computer voice, like started yelling, and I was like, what is going on? And there's this like Bluetooth icon on the mirror, and I'm like, look, I don't need a British woman yelling at me in the morning, or anyone yelling at me in the morning.
Yeah, I don't. I do not need a Bluetooth enabled mirror. This is just
I
going to
don't
be
understand.
three millennial dudes yelling about like the. Wait, are you a Gen X, Ben? Are you a Gen Xer technically?
Yeah,
So,
I'm
all right,
Gen X.
two millennial and one Gen X dudes yelling about how we all know too much about each other and we all have too much technology. And you know what? We're right. Sorry, but I don't need a Bluetooth mirror. Your job is to hang on the wall and reflect things to me, not yell at me.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I feel like I should look into it just to be like, why is this mirror have Bluetooth capabilities? But
Sam, any run-ins with some horrible tech this morning?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not yet.
I do not have the same view that Ben has. I am what looks like in an undisclosed location somewhere in Midtown Manhattan, just stuffed in a broom closet to record this podcast. But no, I mean, I did not expect when Ben said I looked out on the idyllic Asheville landscape and then I went into the bathroom, for that to be the turn.
I was a little worried.
I was very worried about where
headed.
this was going. Yeah. But no, I have never encountered a Bluetooth mirror. I'm sure there are people who have like Snow White, fantasies of like mirror on the wall.
What big teeth you have.
Yeah, and it just says positive affirmations back. But I don't think that's the one Ben got if they're just
right.
Yelling at him in the morning.
Yeah.
I can't remember what she said. It might have just been kind of like connected. I don't even know. I was just like,
it's still too much.
Yeah.
I don't need
It
to
freaked
hear.
me out.
I don't need to hear any of that from a technological device. Which actually brings us in pretty well to this week's episode of the Show Before the Show, where you can hang out with us as always and get in touch with this podcast at MLB.com, the official podcast of minor league baseball, back for another week. And we've got some fun stuff to talk about, but that does very well segue us into our first topic of this week's episode, which is Nothing Night in Louisville, Kentucky, the home of the Louisville Bats, as we open up Ben's Biz Banter, presented by Circle K, the official convenience store of minor league baseball. We've had some nothing nights around baseball for quite some time, but for whatever reason, this year's nothing night in Louisville really took off. And Ben, you got a chance to be on hand. You were on the road. We're going to preview another couple of stops on your road trip. But for the uninitiated, tell us about Nothing Night and from your perspective, like sort of why it seems like this year's edition kind of took off for Louisville and across the social media landscape.
Yeah, it's been strange. So first of all, Nothing Night, for those who don't know, is a long-running minor league baseball promotion staged by various teams through the years, and how much they dedicate to the concept or are able to to it can vary, but it's basically like stripping down the ballpark experience. No ad reads, no between inning contests, minimal video board usage, um, just making it, baseball, quote unquote, baseball in its purest form. Just strip it down and have a minimalistic game approach. And this goes all the way back to the Lake Elsinore Storm, who back in the day, back around the time I was really, starting to first get into this beat of covering the quirky, crazy things that minor league baseball teams did. They initiated the concept in 2009. And in writing about Louisville's edition, I went back to an article I wrote in 2017 about, um, the history of Nothing Night in Lake Elsinore. And when they first did it in 2009, they had the concession stands closed and let fans bring in food and drink. They, this sounds ridiculous. They didn't even have the bathrooms open. They set up porta potties. The front office staff just, set up couches on the concourse and watched the game. There was no anthem singer. The anthem singer was just they just said, "Fans, please rise for the national anthem," and the crowd sang it together. So they went so hard on the concept, especially in the early days, and they got a lot of success with it. And they got to the point where they were drawing, 4,000 people on nothing night. So they did open the bathrooms eventually because it was just like so ridiculous. They didn't even sell tickets in the early ones. They said this is like nothing. Bring your own food and drink, no admission, just really wild. But they started it, and then it became mostly a Cal League thing for a number of years. It felt like you'd mostly see it in the Cal League because other Lake Elsinore Storm are in the Cal League. And remember San Jose doing it multiple times, the Inland Empire 66ers doing it multiple times. And it's spread outward from there. And Louisville has done it since 2023, their version. And their 2026 iteration occurred on Tuesday. And when I was making my road trip schedules this year, I just kind of thought to myself, like, this is the year for me to see a nothing night. I've been writing about them from afar for a long time, and I want to get into it. And it looks like Louisville has, one of the best versions going right now. Lake Elsinore Storm actually have rebranded their version to, sensory friendly night, which is a cool concept in and of itself. But in terms of a hook, from my perspective of, putting a story out there about it, Sensory Friendly Night goes in a different direction with kind of the main focus. And I wanted to do something that was more Nothing Night, although Nothing Nights are, by their definition, sensory friendly. And the bats do not go as hard as the Lake Elsinore Storm once did. They charge admission. They have the concession stands open. The mascot was wandering around kind of quietly. He wasn't doing skits and routines, but Buddy the Bat was wandering around. They did have like the line score up and video boards. They had the PA announcing, the batters, but nothing between innings. And while there was no pre-recorded music, they did have an organist, a guy who's at the games quite a bit, with his playing. I mean, it's technically a keyboard with a organ patch on it, I suppose, to get the organ sound. But a guy named Al Greener, who used to play at the University of Louisville, baseball games for years, he used to be a member of the Bats ground crew. So on Nothing Night, pretty much everything, just between batters and between innings, is him playing the organ. So it's just like pretty chill. And it was fun to experience and just have this quiet ballpark atmosphere. It's a Tuesday night in May, so it wasn't a huge crowd, but the people who show up for it, are really into it. I talked to various fans who love it, who want to see more of it, or less of it, depending on the way you go with Nothing Night. I talked to Vince Zealand, the director of marketing, about, why he brought it to Louisville, because, you got to pitch this, and so it had never been done in Louisville. It was mostly a California thing. So he had worked for Rancho Cucamonga in the Cal League years ago, and that's where he first heard of it. So when he gets to Louisville, he's like, look, we need to do Nothing Night. And it's tough because teams have partners, sponsorships, in-game activations. I'm not saying it's a super hard lift, but you have to kind of pitch this and be like, look, for one night, we can not do those things. So it's cool to get his perspective on it. It was cool to talk to Al Greener, the organist, and how he approaches the night. But I talked to a pitcher who was there last year, Sam Ben Scooter, and got his like perspective as a player. And he's like, he wasn't like super anti, but he's like, I think by and large, the players prefer to have something. They like the kind of energy of a normal ballpark experience. But hey, for one night, it's kind of fun, and you can hear your own thoughts a little bit better. Although he added, sometimes I don't want to hear my thoughts, and I think we can all relate to that. But it was really cool to see. And Tyler, as you alluded to before I started rambling on here, this Nothing Night has gone viral basically throughout the week. And we're talking on Thursday, but when the Bats promoted it in advance of the game on social media, their promotion of it went viral. Front Office Sports picked it up. Their clips from the game went viral. One of my tweets from the game, got a lot of engagement. MLB took some of the MLB social, like MLB Twitter, MLB Instagram, posted some clips of it. And now I have a story coming out in my newsletter today, while we're talking on Thursday. And tomorrow that'll be on the site as well, along with a video of Nothing Night. So please check that out on MILB/MLB, a full accounting of Nothing Night in Louisville. I wrote that article late into the night last night in this hotel room in Asheville, and no mirrors yelled at me while I was writing it, fortunately.
And we were talking off air before we started, and this is always the question of these successful promo nights, right? Is that there will probably be copycats. I mean, Louisville's Nothing Night is itself a copycat, as you've mentioned several times, from Lake Elsinore and much of what happened in the Cal League. But it also makes me wonder if there would be a team out there, and this might be difficult to pull off, like you said, with all the activations and sponsorships that normally go into a normal minor league baseball game, that would just do Nothing Tuesdays. Like every night
Yeah.
every Tuesday in April and May, and then maybe in September at the end of the year would be Nothing Night. Like it just feels like you're going to be able to. Maybe that takes away some of the shine of it, but I think it does also highlight just the product, which is baseball on the field. Did
Yeah,
you ever
and I
envision
think it
that, or
would.
is it too complicated a web?
Um, I would love to see more of it, and I do think it could be done more than just once a year by a handful of teams. And I think the fact that it went viral is speaking to something, not just in baseball, but just in the world at large. I think we feel as just humans alive in the year 2026 that there's just a bombardment of sensory input, sensory overload, and it's hard to pay attention to anything for a long amount of time. So I think when a team does something like this, it speaks to something deeper. There might be this thing of like, yeah, the games sometimes for me are a little too loud and frenetic in terms of the larger entertainment presentation. But I think it goes beyond baseball and people just wishing to be quiet with their own thoughts. And what better place than a baseball game? It's like the sport made for a slower, relaxed atmosphere. And I think we could embrace that. And I think if teams could get a sponsor for more of a recurring Nothing Night, and Nothing Night presented by whatever it is. I'm trying to think of a clever sponsorship where a company would
It
really
needs to
want
be
to
like
tie
a
itself into
meditation
nothing.
app.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Gotta be one
Something
I
of
was
those.
thinking about Whiteout. Nothing Night brought to you by Whiteout.
Ah, that's kind of fun.
by Whiteout. I mean, I don't know how Whiteout is doing these days.
I don't know how it's doing either.
Good. It's a very good point. Who makes whiteout? Bic? I don't know. We don't have to dive into the
Well, see,
office
my mind
supplies
went to an
conversation.
eraser company, and I was just like, "Are there eraser companies? Like, is there just a company that
Big eraser.
Big Eraser?"
Yeah.
Yeah, Nothing Night brought to you by Big
But
Eraser.
Whiteout would be a great sponsor. And, Whiteout, I'm sure some of the listeners know, was invented by the mother of um, Mike Nesmith of the Monkees. So he was like rich independently of being in the Monkees because his mother invented Whiteout. The more you know.
Wow, that guy didn't have to do anything. Didn't write his own music. Didn't create whiteout. Still, that's a
Yeah,
solid way to go.
he still went out there and hustled, man. I respect Mike Nesmith.
All right, Ben. Well, let's continue rolling through this trip as Nothing Night is the first of multiple stops for you. And as you noted, you are in Asheville, North Carolina today, where you will not see a new ballpark, but you will see a very different looking. It'll always be McCormick Field to me. I'm sorry to whatever the naming rights sponsor is, but they have done a ton of work in Asheville on that ballpark. Give us the preview of what you're expecting to see at the legendary and historic home of the tourists.
Yeah, I mean, so starting this trip in Louisville, it was quite a drive from Louisville to Asheville, but I really wanted to get Nothing Night in. And then when I was not necessarily in the area, but putting together the rest of the itinerary, I thought, Asheville will be good. I have not been to Asheville for 8 years or so. And Tyler, as you mentioned, there's a new ballpark name. This ballpark was built in 1924, was known as McCormick Field for all of its existence going up until this season, uh, in honor of Dr. Lewis McCormick, who was a bacteriologist who had a campaign about like swat the fly campaign or something like that. But he was an early adopter of the idea, or what turned out to be fact, of like insects carrying diseases, and made a lot of contributions to public health in Asheville and the greater region. But
Feels very
now it
fitting in
is,
modern day America to kind of just push him back. I feel we're in a fitting time.
yeah. So now it's a home trust field, I think, partnership with the bank. But the timing of that is because they did just put a ton of money into that ballpark. Um, 1924. There's obviously not too many ballparks in any level that are still existing, let alone meeting the facility standards for a affiliated minor league team in the year 2026. So I'm curious to see, what improvements they've made, how they've worked to retain the character of the classic ballpark. I'll be there tonight on Thirsty Thursday. So, one of my potential angles is the fact that the Asheville tourists originated the concept of Thirsty Thursday back in the 80s. I think I talked about that on last week's podcast. But so I'll be at the original home of Thirsty Thursday. They own the trademark to Thirsty Thursday on a Thirsty Thursday. So yeah, just interested to see this ballpark entering its new era and witnessing the original home of Thirsty Thursday on a Thirsty Thursday. And then from there, I'm going to Chattanooga, one of 5 new ballparks opening, one of 5 minor league cities that has a new ballpark opening in 2026, or that has opened. This will be the first one I visited. Erlanger Park. It's on the site of a former ironworks foundry. So they've incorporated a lot of the industrial past into the new ballpark design. So I kind of want to highlight that. And they were at AT&T Stadium for 25 or so years before that, which was in downtown at the top of a hill, and pretty no frills facility, especially for one that was built not that long ago. And curious to see what the new vibe is in Chattanooga. So I'll be there on Friday and Saturday, highlighting their food items, highlighting the architectural quirks of the ballpark, and just trying to give a full report from a new ballpark in Chattanooga. So I was saying this to you guys before we started taping, but like, I left on early in the morning from New York City on Tuesday, and we're talking here on around noon on Thursday. And I feel like I've been gone for a week, but I've just seen one game and had a lot of travel. But it's just a whirlwind on the road. I flew into Louisville, and shout out to Russ Aldridge. Geez, I hope I'm getting his name right. Russell. Uh, he listens to this excuse me. He listens to this podcast, and he got in touch with me. He's like, "Hey Ben, if you're coming to Louisville, I work at Texas Roadhouse corporate headquarters if you want to grab lunch." So, unbeknownst to me, I'd never really thought about Texas Roadhouse and where its corporate headquarters were, but it's a
Not in
Louisville-based.
Texas.
Yeah, not in Texas. It's a
Huh.
Louisville-based company,
Why wouldn't they
and
go
it was a
Kentucky
pretty
Roadhouse?
cool.
We gotta get on this now. We gotta explore it.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, wow, I've seen Texas Roadhouses. I've eaten them in the past, eaten at them in the past. I've enjoyed them for what they are, but hadn't really thought much about them. And now I'm like much more of a Texas Roadhouse fan. Their cafeteria, has the vibe of a Texas Roadhouse. There was a lot of stuff around the quarters dedicated to their founder, a guy named Kent. And he seemed like a guy with a real vision and a real sense of personality. And they're keeping that alive. It seemed like a lively, upbeat, very positive place to work. A lot of employee recognition all over the walls. And just made me like, you know what? Maybe I like Texas Roadhouse. Maybe this is my kind of company. But thanks to Russell for inviting me over. It was a quirky, unexpected way to start the road trip. And then yesterday, before I left on the long drive between Louisville and Asheville, I stopped by the headquarters of Dan Simon, of Studio Simon, longtime minor league logo designer. And he's got a really cool office. It's at Bowman Field, not to be confused with the home of the Willingsport Crosscutters, but the original airport in Louisville. And there's still, some small aircraft and helicopter activity around there, but it's clearly not the main airport anymore. And he has an office in this historic Art Deco building. So it was cool to see, where the magic happens. Because we've talked about Studio Simon and Dan Simon a lot on this podcast. We've had him on the podcast. He's worked with dozens upon dozens of teams over a career of minor league, not just minor league baseball design, but he's worked in the minor leagues since the Fort Myers Miracle in 1993. And, I've crossed paths with Dan through the years, but never saw his office. So that was cool too. And then got on the road, took a long drive to Asheville, and here we are.
How is that drive from Louisville to?
Yeah, it's got to be beautiful.
It felt long. I'll say that. It was probably a little over 6 hours. There were different parts where it was down to one lane. But when you get in the back, like 150 miles or so, you're kind of winding through the hills and mountains, and it is consistently a beautiful backdrop to drive into Asheville, because this is a city really nestled in the hills, and not just Asheville, but the whole larger portion of Western North Carolina coming in from Tennessee. Was a good drive. And I just had one of those moments yesterday where I stopped for gas at this random rural gas station, and sometimes I just become so captivated by this place I'll never fully know where I was, but just seeing the rolling hills and these a few buildings, but just a more natural environment, and just being in the gas station and looking at the landscape and being like, I like being on the road. It's those small moments that kind of make me feel most alive, going in and getting some snacks. It wasn't a Circle K. I always do look for a Circle K on the road, but in rural Tennessee, sometimes you just have to take what you can get. But I'll be hitting up some Circle Ks as I get to them on this trip, and stay tuned for that.
Pretty great stuff from the southeastern part of the United. It's like the central southeastern part of the United States, the Carolinas and Kentucky, and that's where Benjamin Hill is. Tennessee as well. Sorry, Chattanooga, I didn't want to leave you out. But Ben having some fun and bringing us the world of minor league baseball from one of the coolest areas in the minor league baseball map. And good stuff, Ben. As always, we're gonna hear from your trip after this brief timeout. Thanks, buddy.
Hey, thank you.
Where is Daredevil?
I'm right here. Don't miss the return of Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again.
So what's next?
I feel liberated.
We're gonna take this city back.
Over medicated.
In an all-new season, now streaming only on Disney+.
They're hunting us. It's time we started hunting them.
I can work with that.
This should be tons of fun.
Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again, now streaming only on Disney+.
The sounds of baseball, there's nothing better than the sounds of baseball. The sounds of every other sport, also good, but the sounds of baseball. There's just so many more like like a guy munching on sunflower seeds, or the sound of metal spikes walking across a warning track. Like it's so different, man. I love the sounds of baseball. And huge thanks to our local content coordinators for getting that all from Louisville.
Yeah, I mean, baseball, the beauty of it is that there is space to fill. And how do you fill that space?
Yeah.
As a broadcaster, as a player, as a writer, as a fan, as a stadium operator. Like, what do you do with that space?
Yeah.
Sometimes it gives us too much to think about. I've heard that from outfielders, and I've heard that from relief pitchers, as Ben just kind of alluded to. But that's the beauty of it. It gives us time
Yeah.
to contemplate, and it creates some of the battles, right? Like, you got to think about, what pitch am I throwing here? And you
Yeah.
got to think about what pitch is coming at me. And how am I going to react if it's a line drive in the gap? And how am I going to react if it's a hot shot to third base? So it's the beauty of our sport, Tyler.
It's all so good. All right. Well, that leads us perfectly into our conversation, which will focus on some of the next biggest and brightest stars who we will be looking at in this sport that we love so much, because the top 100 prospects list has been updated for May, and we've got a new top prospect in baseball because of the graduation of Pittsburgh Pirates young phenom Connor Griffin, who has exceeded his 130 major league at-bat total. So he has graduated from prospect status, which means we're getting a new number one. So we might as well just re-rank everybody. And Sam, the floor is yours to tell us about this new top 100.
Yeah. So the way we do these, we try to aim for like every 6 weeks or so during the season, just to give the top 100 a new polish. I will push back against something you said there slightly. It is not a full revamp of the top 100. We call it market corrections. So what we do is, this is our process. Myself, Jim Callis, Jonathan Mayo, we revote on the top 15. So that's completely new. That's just jumbled all together. We aggregate our votes. We talk it through, who should move up or down. Top 15, completely new. From there, from 16 to 100, we look at the current list, or the old list in this case, and we move guys up or down 10 spots that are deserving. So some guys just kind of hold. Might move up or down a few spots just because of natural movement on the list. But we're not trying to revamp everything. In some cases, some guys are doing as expected. Sometimes we look at it and be like, well, it's still, it's been 6 weeks. It's not a huge sample yet. There are some indicators that make us feel comfortable leaving a guy where he is. Sometimes we're already seeing the kernels of a breakout, right? And like, okay, now's the time to stuff this guy, based off things we heard in the spring, things we saw in the spring and our various trips to Arizona and Florida, and what's carried into the season. And then, obviously there are going to be some guys we removed from the list. So we have some empty spots at the end. We revote on those, make some additions towards the end. So it's not a completely new, fresh coat of paint on the top 100, but it is closer to the true thing, right? Like, we're not trying to, what used to happen, I think, was that we would have a preseason list and it wouldn't get updated until August when we incorporated draft picks and everything else. Obviously, we make additions along the way as graduations happen, but going into the trade deadline, you want an updated list. People going, or as we sit here now in mid-May, you want people going to the ballpark and having a better understanding of where the prospects they're going to be watching that day stand in the industrial conversation, I guess, the conversation across the industry. So that's what we're aiming to do here. And the fact that Connor Griffin graduated Wednesday night with 130, once he got to 131 at-bats, he was officially graduated. We were all on tenterhooks, right? Like, we had all this planned to go live Wednesday night. And like, what happens if he gets hit and gets taken out of the game after one at-bat? Like, that pushes everything back. Thankfully that didn't happen. Thankfully Connor Griffin got there comfortably. Wish him well. He's no longer a prospect. He's still a rookie, but no longer a prospect. We don't have to worry about ranking him anymore. So that means we have a new number one overall prospect in baseball, and the crown stays in the NL Central. Jesus Madej, who, if you've listened to the show at all for the last 2 years, I am a big fan of this player because of who he is and the superstar potential that he has. He is now our number one overall prospect. The Brewers shortstop just beats out Leo DeVries, the Athletic shortstop, who you might remember was acquired from the Padres in last year's Mason Miller deal. He's at number 2. Those two guys are 19-year-old shortstops at Double-A. They are the only 19-year-olds to crack an opening day roster in Double-A to begin the year. They've since been joined by Raniel Rodriguez, who still ranks high, Cardinals catcher. He just got promoted to Double-A Springfield this week. But other than that, these guys are being aggressively pushed. Just 2 years ago, 2.5 roughly, They were signed as international free agents, and now they're only 2 stops away from the major leagues. I'll come back to those guys in a second here. Let me just round out the top 10. Number 3 is Seth Hernandez, draft pick from the Pirates last year. He's kind of following the Connor Griffin path. He just got promoted to high A Greensboro this week after absolutely tearing it apart tearing it up at single A Bradenton in the Florida State League. Before that, all of his stuff was exceptionally good. He was pitching at times into the triple digits. His secondaries were getting whiff rates above 70%. Normally, we don't get this aggressive with pitchers, especially high school pitchers. But the quality of stuff, the results that we've seen so far, the fact that the Pirates are pushing him, he has gotten to Greensboro quicker than Connor Griffin did last year. So that made us feel comfortable that not only is he the best pitching prospect in the game right now, but we can move him to number 3. Number 4, Eli Willits of the Nationals, another switch hitting shortstop, joining Madej and DeVries on that list. Number 1 overall pick last year. If you look at the numbers, it's been a pretty good start for Eli Willits at single A Fredericksburg, but the trend is moving up. He got off to a little bit of a slow start. He's making really good adjustments. Seems like he's making good swing decisions. The power has been pretty solid. That's the biggest question mark on him. It might end up being below average by the time he makes the major leagues, but the fact that he's got plus hit, plus speed, plus glove at shortstop, the Nationals are absolutely loaded at the 6, and they have said this is our priority shortstop. This is a guy we want getting the reps there, is telling. So this might be a little bit aggressive with him, but we are pushing him to number 4. Number 5, Trey Savage. If you watched the postseason last year, you already know Trey Savage was slowed by a shoulder impingement at the start of this year, had to rehab a bit. Command wasn't great, made the majors. It looked like vintage Trey Savage, which is a crazy thing to say about a guy who still ranks on our top 100. Number 6 and 7 come from the Seattle Mariners organization, Colt Emerson, shortstop, and left-hander Cade Anderson, who was the number 3 overall pick last year, coming out of LSU. He's been stellar at Double-A Arkansas. I feel like we've talked about him a bunch so far on the show. Number 8 is Max Clark, the outfielder for the Tigers. Number 9, Josue DePaula, the outfielder for the Dodgers. And number 10, Sebastian Walcott, infielder for the Rangers, who has not played this season because he underwent Tommy John surgery in the spring, but he was somebody who was incredibly advanced last year at Double-A. We'll see how he does coming back from the surgery, but he's not a pitcher, not as worried about the elbow coming off of that. And because he was so young, even when he comes back, he still will be pretty advanced if the power, the arm, everything comes back for Sebastian Walcott. So he rounds out our number 10 in the newly updated top 100.
All right, Sam. So some really good stuff on this refreshed, shall we say, top 100. The thing that stands out to me about this time of the year is it feels like we're sort of in that stage mid-May where you can kind of tell, all right, who is a legit riser and who is somebody who we're going to have to put on the back burner, or maybe we're looking at as like, is this a season of regression? As far as the risers go, as guys who, are maybe going to be jumping into the top 100 who didn't start the season there, or guys who you feel like are going to make big jumps from maybe the back end of the top 100. Is there anybody who you really have an eye on right now? Like, oh, this dude is coming.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few of them. Anthony Ianson is somebody we jumped 25 spots. We had just added him to the top 100. So going into Wednesday night, he was at 97. Now he's at 72. And I would still say there's an arrow up to that. This is just a snapshot in time because we need to see the results carry to Double-A Portland. He only has 1 start there so far, but he's there quicker than many, many other pitchers coming out of last year's draft. Another LSU product right there with Cade Anderson. He went from throwing 92, 94 at LSU to being more comfortably in the mid-90s now. I've seen him touch triple digits in the spring breakout game. The slider and the curveball have the chance to be absolutely wicked pitches. So he's got a huge arrow up next to his name. Luis Hernandez, shortstop of the Giants, was this year's top international signing. And we heard some whispers. I will give Jim Callis credit for this. He does our Giants list. And he was talking to us, pretty early on in spring training. And he's like, Hernandez didn't make our top 100. But, should we add him pretty quick? And I was saying, well, yeah, he signed for just a hair under $5 million. Obviously, he's on our radar. I do want to see him. And he's like, the stuff I am hearing on the backfields from San Francisco, they are as excited with him as they are anybody else in their system. And that's proven to be the case. They skipped him over the Dominican Summer League completely and he's been in the Arizona begin this year. It's only been 8 games, but in those 8 games, he's already hit 4 homers and had 4 doubles and had 4 walks. So he's batting 406. He's slugging 906. Small sample. You don't necessarily hit homers in bunches like this and just say it's a small sample issue. The fact that the power is coming on this quick, I think one sign for the Giants why they were willing to get so aggressive with him is that he actually played against much older competition in Venezuela, in the Venezuelan Major League, and did pretty well against those guys. He went 16 for 49 against pitchers who had either been in the majors or AAA. So the Arizona Complex League isn't going to necessarily scare this guy. And we moved him here as well, up 23 spots from 81 to 58. We just want to see, obviously, the pro resume grow a little bit. It's tough to put all our eggs in a basket on a guy who's only played 8 games, but those 8 games have been really special, and everything we were hearing about that, what's happened in unofficial games, right? Like extended spring training and spring training backfields games has been really, really special. So make sure you're watching Luis Hernandez as much as you can. Would not shock me if he gets to single A San Jose by the second half. And the fact that he is still only 17 years old and will be 17 all the way to December. Again, it always read into why a player is being promoted in a certain way. The teams will tell you one thing on the record, but when they promote a player very early, they're saying something there as well. So it's always a clear indication of like what they think of the guy if they truly believe he is ready for the challenge. Giants are telling us a lot by the way they've treated at this point. And the other one I'll throw out there is Ethan Salas, who another top international signing a few years back. It has been such a roller coaster ride for that guy. Part of it was, in 2024, he really had a tough offensive year at High A Fort Wayne. And that's after the Padres have been super aggressive with him. He even reached Double A in his first full season of minor league ball. Sent back to High A, never cracked above that. Made some adjustments in the second half, went to the Arizona Fall League, was looking a little bit better there. Has always been really special as a defender. So last year he goes to Double A San Antonio for 10 games and then suffers a back injury and never comes back. So we were going on 2 years of him either underperforming or just not playing. I mean, there was some talk about him going to the Arizona Fall League for his second year last year. Padres decided to be careful with him, not push it, not try to hurt his back further going into the offseason, get a full offseason to be stronger, to be safer, to be healthier. And it's paying dividends. I mean, Ethan Salas right now, he's incorporated a toe tap. I was actually talking to Mike Daly of Padres player development this week. There's a story on Padres.com about that and some other Padres standouts. But that's something he kept coming back to is the toe tap has allowed Ethan Salas to be more on time, to see the ball better, and to play into his power. And the power is really coming along. I mean, the exit velocities are there. He's hitting balls up to 112 miles per hour. The homers are coming. Like, this is the Ethan Salas that was promised. It's been a little bit later than we thought, but he's somebody, again, because the defense is so good and the bat is back on the upswing, he's gone from 94 to 52, and he's another one who I would expect could possibly jump 30 spots, 40 spots. Like, as long as this keeps
pretty impressive
holding and this looks like the Ethan Salas we thought he was, we used to think he was a top 10 overall prospect.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's just the fact of the matter. And this is what it looked like. So, again, I want to really highlight this. This is a snapshot in time, right? Like, just because we have him at 52 now does not mean that's where he's going to stay for the remainder of the year. He could continue to get better, continue to show that this is who I really am now, and climb again. The highest climber of anybody in our top 100 this latest update is A.J. Ewing, the outfielder for the Mets. We've already seen him make the major leagues. Like, we had decided he was going to be our highest climber, and then the Mets push him to the majors. It felt like a desperate move at the time, but everything I believed in A.J. Ewing, in that he makes strong swing decisions, he's a plus runner, he can be a really good defender in center field, has come to the fore for the Mets in 2 quick games. He's taken a few walks, he's got a triple, he's stolen bases, he's moving around the bags really well. He's been a lightning bolt for a Mets team that absolutely could use it. He's moved up from 78 to 34, but I cannot stress again, like, this was not because he got called up to the majors. This is because what he was showing at Double A and Triple A before the call up that allowed us to be more aggressive with A.J. Ewing and make him New York's top prospect.
So good stuff. You can check it all out at MLB.com as the top 100 list refresh is here for 2026. And you can figure out where your team's best talent is. Yeah, there's a lot of just really fun names in here and guys that we're continuing to watch grow and develop as young players and guys who it feels like we're not going to be seeing on these lists for too much longer as they get closer and closer to the big leagues. But you can check it all out at MLB.com. And coming up, we'll step aside for one final pause and bring it on back to say goodbye on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show.
This spring, Uber Eats has you covered. Whether you're celebrating mom, dad, or your favorite grad, not all of us are great planners, and with the Uber Eats gift hub, you don't have to be. Send flowers, perfume, champagne, or just their favorite meal straight to their door. Gifts arrive in as little as 25 minutes, and you can add a personalized video message for that additional so not last minute touch. So this spring, get a leg up on gift giving with Uber Eats. Last minute gifts that land every time. Must be 21 or older to purchase alcohol. Product availability varies per region. See app for details.
Getting set to say goodbye on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. But before we do, some stuff to get to. This year, 2026, for the 10th year in a row, minor league baseball and Joe Torre Safe at Home are teaming up at ballparks all across the country this year to raise awareness about domestic violence and abuse and to inspire fans of all ages to join them in Safe at Home's critical effort to support young people's safety and well-being. Throughout this season, not just minor league baseball, several big league teams will also participate by hosting special Safe at Home games throughout the year. But over 65 minor league baseball teams will participate in an in-park initiative starting on June 1st all the way through late September. Fans will get chances to engage with Safe at Home's mission, including public service announcements, scoreboard messages, and additionally, they will have a chance to receive packs of new Topps baseball cards as well as a limited edition custom Safe at Home Topps card inspired by legendary Joe Torre cards from throughout his career. That includes stuff that goes all the way back to 1963. Topps Baseball's Joe Torre number 347 when he was a member of the Milwaukee Braves through 2008 remember when Joe Torre managed the Los Angeles Dodgers? That was weird. But you can get details for all of that at MLB.com. And, of course, for more information and to find a participating game, you can visit safeathome.org/baseball. Great stuff from the Joe Torre Foundation and from minor league baseball as well. And we also have one other item of note. Our good buddy, Jonathan Mayo, season 2 of Grassroots is airing on MLB Network, hosted by Jonathan Mayo. The travelogue show across minor league baseball is headed to Tulsa for its next episode. You can get all the details on that from our good bud Rob Terranova, who's got a story at MLB.com about that. And all right, fellas, before we get out of here, it is the moment you have all been waiting for. And that is this week's episode of Name That Dude, in which one of us picks a dude from years past in baseball, and the other guys will try to name that dude. This week I'm the dude knower, which makes my cohorts, Ben and Sam, the dude guessers. I don't know why this dude popped into my head. Well, I do. I was thinking about pursuing foul balls and when three players have to converge on those like high ones down the line. Anyway, there was a play in the 96 World Series that involved this dude, a weird 3-man conversion like that. But anyway, let's get into him. This dude was originally drafted in the 43rd round of the 1992 MLB draft from Will C. Wood High School in, I think this is pronounced Vacaville, California. Man, I feel like some Californians are going to get annoyed with me if I pronounce that wrong. Anyway, he didn't sign with the Rangers after that anyway. He elected instead to go to Cosumnes River College, which I also probably butchered, in Sacramento. And he was drafted by Atlanta in the 17th round of 1993. Now, he made his professional debut in that 93 season at a couple of different rookie level stops with the GCL Braves in what was formerly rookie ball, now, of course, the Florida Complex League. Then he made the jump up to Danville, rookie level ball also in the Appalachian League. Following season, he was in Macon, Georgia in the South Atlantic League at Class A for the entire season there. Very steady progression. He literally went A ball in 94, AA in 95 with Greenville, AAA in 96 with Richmond, and he made his major league debut with Richmond. The following year, though, he was already gone from the Atlanta organization. And it's sort of funny because I think of this guy, I mean, he was a rookie playing in the World Series in 1996, and then he was off to Kansas City, and he was with the Royals, the A's, and the White Sox for the remainder of his career. He won a World Series in 2005 with the Chicago White Sox. So he went Atlanta, Kansas City, Oakland, Chicago. He was with Chicago starting in that 05 season when they won the World Series through 2009, which was his age 35 campaign, in which he was done with his major league career after that. He was a guy who finished in Rookie of the Year voting 6th in 1996. He was an All-Star and a Gold Glove Award winner with the Kansas City Royals in 2000. He was an All-Star later on with the White Sox in 2006, and in his age 32 season, he had his best campaign, an OPS over 1,000. He was a Silver Slugger. He was 5th in MVP voting. I think Sam knows who this is. Sam, you got it?
I want you to keep giving this guy his due.
This dude is a very, very good player. He's one of those guys you look back on, you're like, man, this guy hit 325 big league homers. He played 14 major league seasons, career OPS of 826, an OPS plus of 111. I mean, this was a very, very good player and a guy who I feel like people, I don't want to say forget about, but like you don't think about him, I think, necessarily in the same vein as some other guys who had a similar career at that stage. But not only was this guy an All-Star and a World Series winner and all that, he was also the World Series MVP in 2005 and was a stud. And Sam has this guy, now 52 years old, from Oakland, California. Sam, who you got?
Jermaine Dye.
You are darn right, Jermaine Dye. Jermaine Terrell Dye, who played his final game in the big leagues in 2009 at the age of 35. Jermaine Dye was a fun player, man. He was such a fun guy to watch. Jermaine Dye, when you think back on the stars of that era, he doesn't jump to mind, but you think about, especially those White Sox teams, they're not winning the World Series without Jermaine Dye that year. That year, which was the year before his career best season, he played 145 games in that World Series year, an 846 OPS. He hit 31 homers, drove in 86. The following year, his age 32 season, a 44 homer, 120 RBI season, 315, 385, 622 his slash line in his age 32 season in 146 games. He's just a really, really good player, man. Jermaine Dye was really good.
Yeah, I think of him as a Royal.
Yeah,
still in my brain. Because those were, again, the late 90s were some of my more formative years, but he was like the slugger on those teams. When the Royals came through, and they weren't always that great. And I know they had other players, like Johnny Damon was there, and Mike Sweeney obviously was and remains a legend in Kansas City. And, Carlos Beltran wasn't that off either. But Jermaine Dye was the guy who came up and you're just like, you know what? I would like him in my right field.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would just like to stick him out there.
I would take this
have
dude
a reliable slugger.
Team. Yeah.
Yeah.
For
30,
sure.
25 to 30 homer guy. I know you mentioned he had some other big years in there. So when he won with the White Sox in 05, you're like, this is a guy who should have a World Series in there somewhere.
Yeah.
You mentioned his California roots. Would have been nice if it had come with the A's. I guess. But the fact that he helped the White Sox break a long drought as well, there's some special moments to that too. So Jermaine Dye, what a fun, good career, just reliable right-handed bat.
He's a great player, Jermaine Dye. And
that was my guess too, but I didn't have the confidence Sam did. I did not remember him on the Braves as a rookie in the World Series.
Even in his final big league season, was still very productive. 27 home runs in his final major league campaign with a 793 OPS and above average OPS plus. He's a really fun player. Jermaine Dye, wherever you are, we tip our caps to you on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. And that's going to do it for us. Fun stuff. You can get in touch with us, of course, as always, podcast at MILB.com. And for Sam Dykstra and Benjamin Hill, my name is Tyler Maughan, and we will catch you next week.